Hello everybody and welcome to another beautiful episode of the Untitled Star Wars show, which, as I said last episode 2 weeks ago, I'm pretty close to being decided on a name. The news dropped that Donald is indeed playing Lando Calrissian. People had been wanting this, people had been fan casting this, people had been fan casting Donald in lots of things over the years though, as they wanted him for Miles Morales as in Spider-Man. That didn't happen. And then people were like, well, he should play Lando. And people were like, oh, he's too old. But he's not really too old because Lando's older than Han anyway. And Donald's only like 30 anyway, like early 30s or late 20s or early, I think he's like early 30s. It's all fine. When they cast Alden Ehrenreich, which I believe is how you say his name, you know what I'm talking about. The guy who's playing young Han Solo in the upcoming Untitled Han Solo movie. When they cast him, they said they went through like 2,500 people. They're not going to cast a guy who they went through 2,500 people. They're not going to cast him and then go off and pick between however many people for Lando, right? And they're not going to make sure they meld together. Can guarantee that they've done a screen test together, probably in costume. Oh, what a dream it would be to see, I reckon. Have been in character together, doing a scene from the rough draft of the movie, or just like, maybe they, or I wouldn't put it against them to have them just kind of play out a scene from episode 5 or something like that. To see how they go together. So you know that they work together. You can guarantee, we don't need evidence for this. You know the two of them work together. And you can trust that they're going to work together well. You know that they're going to look good together on screen. And that is the most important thing. Me personally, I'm a big fan of Donald Glover. A huge Community fan. So that's where I first saw it. And then I become a huge fan of his alter ego music project, Childish Gambino. So I'm a fan on both ends. I'm a fan of this casting. And honestly, the more I hear about this movie, the more excited for it. It's interesting, there isn't much to say about it, of course, because we haven't seen him in costume. We haven't seen him do anything. It's just like, here, he's going to be it. He's talked about it on Ellen, like a day or two ago, how great he's going to enjoy it, and all this. I haven't seen much hate for it, which is surprising, but maybe I haven't been looking at the right parts of the web, or maybe everyone's just happy with it, which would be great. I'm sure there is people out there complaining, but love it or hate it, remind yourself, don't judge it until you actually see it, right? So I personally love the casting. Could turn out terrible, of course. Everything could turn out terrible. So I'm not going to lock it in as being the best thing ever until I see it. If you hate it, don't lock it in as the worst thing ever until you've seen it. Alright, so the big topic I wanted to talk about this week is we are days away from hitting November. We are moments away from hitting November, which means we are, as far as I'm concerned, as soon as we hit November, we are counting down the days until we are in the cinema watching the first spin-off Star Wars movie, unless you want to count the animated feature, like the Clone Wars movie, but we're not. The first spin-off feature Star Wars movie, the first Star Wars story, Rogue One. And last year, leading up to Force Awakens, from the first week of November, I watched a Star Wars movie every week until leading up to Force Awakens. So there was 6 weeks from the first week of November until the release of Force Awakens, and there's going to be the same 6 weeks from the first week of November this week. So I planned out viewing material to watch. So we're going to call it the pre-Rogue One viewing guide. So I've got this viewing guide of stuff, and I'm going to go through it with you and explain the choices. Now, it's only stuff you can watch. As much as it would be great in a dream world where I could be like, I'm going to reread the Tarkin novel. I'm going to reread I can't remember the book's name, sorry, mental blanking, the one where they introduce Kanan and Hera, and I'm going to watch all of Rebels Season 1, 2 again, and I'm going to watch all relevant Clone Wars episodes, and I'm going to rewatch episode 1, 2, 3, and all this stuff. It's like, well, you know, who has that amount of time, right? Some of us have jobs and hobby jobs. So this is my Rogue One previewing guide. So week 1, I've got down to watch the Clone Wars Season 3, episodes 15 through to 17, also known as the Mortis Trilogy. What happens is that the Jedi Order basically gets a signal, lead distress signal, and Obi-Wan, Anakin, and his Jedi Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, get led out to this remote place they've never really been to. And they get sucked in to this weird planet, and the ship crashes there or breaks. I can't really remember if it breaks or crashes. And they're stuck there, and they meet weird Force-like beings without fully explaining the whole thing. And it's a 3-episode trilogy. And the reason I wanted to start off with this is because I was trying to pick. Originally I was like, oh, I could just watch like the Clone Wars movie, the original anime movie, to introduce this 6 weeks, because I wanted all to kind of tie it together and make it sense. I was like, good, because I can introduce Ahsoka in there, because I'm going to have some other episodes and stuff with Ahsoka. It's a good way to like, oh, here's Anakin before he's a turd, and stuff like that. But I was like, no, this Mortis trilogy works, because it's like, here's Anakin, here's Ahsoka, you got Obi-Wan here, of course, and then in the 3rd episode of the trilogy, or the 2nd, something goes really, really interesting, where Anakin gets a bit of precog for future events in his life. Wink, wink. And you may or may not hear and see the beam of a laser that the rebels are setting out to stop, to destroy, to find the plans of in Rogue One. So that all kind of ties it in. So the Mortis trilogy, which is Clone Wars Season 3, episodes 15 through to 17, is week 1's viewing. Week 2, we have probably the most basic, not basic, like the most obvious need to watch pre-Rogue One episodes of the Clone Wars. If you was only going to watch a few episodes of the Clone Wars, the most important ones to watch would be these ones. These are the Clone Wars Season 5, episodes 2 through 5, and these are the 4 episodes that have Saw Gerrera in it, the character that Forrest Whitaker will be portraying much older, further in time, in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And in this, he's not anywhere near the character we see him in those trailers for Rogue One. He's definitely younger, and his planet's basically under threat from the Separatists. And the Jedi go there, and Anakin more or less trains Saw and his people how to cause an uprising without actually doing it himself, because the Jedi can't really intervene too much with stuff. There's a whole bit of politics into it. But it's basically, you get to see what Saw goes through on his home planet, what he goes through with his family life, and then we leave him off there in that last episode as here's an arc in the 4 episodes. You'll see him go from one kind of man to another, and then we'll get to see what he's like in Rogue One. So the 4 episodes of Saw Gerrera are really the most obvious watches. The most obvious watches. So yeah, if you're only going to watch a few episodes of something pre-going into Rogue One, I definitely suggest at least watching the Saw Gerrera episode so you can catch up on what that character's all about. Week 3, I have the Clone Wars Season 5, episodes 17, 18, 19. These are the first 3 episodes of a 4-episode arc that ended Season 5, which is basically the last season, not counting the lost episodes. So it's the last proper season of Clone Wars, really. And so the first 3 episodes set up, and then we'll get to the final episode next week. But what happens is Ahsoka Tano gets accused of a bombing that happened at the Jedi Temple, more or less. And it tests her faith with the Jedi Order. It tests Anakin's faith with the Jedi Order. And you'll also get to see show up one Grand Moff Williff Tarkin will show up. Obviously tying in to Rogue One, because we all know he's going to be in that movie. He has to be in that movie, so tying that all in. You've got Tarkin in here, but you also get to see, because Vader, of course, is going to be playing a big part. I assume a big part. I think that some of the reshoots for Rogue One were to make Vader a bigger part, it seems, from that last trailer. You also get to see Anakin, kind of his balancing's being been played with his Padawan kind of being accused of this, and he goes to you get to see what kind of man he is when he goes to big lengths to try and help his Padawan up, because he's actually a really caring guy and a really great character in the Clone Wars. Let's get to next week. So, week 4, the Clone Wars Season 5, Episode 20. Gonna watch the final episode of that arc where Ahsoka... Now, I'm gonna spoil this because I kind of need to, and it's out there, like it's kind of known. So this is I have to spoil this. So if you don't, you can skip ahead a minute if you don't want to be spoiled or whatever. Ahsoka gets her name cleared of the accused, and the Jedi wants to let her back in, but she feels so hurt by the Jedi Order that she walks away from. She walks away from the Jedi Order, and this is the last on-screen moment you have between Anakin and Ahsoka. So I want to put that in here because the next thing you're going to watch after this is Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And I wish, because if we'd got another scene at Clone Wars, we would have got this scene, because it's in the Ahsoka novel, which I'm currently reading at the moment. It's really great. And they explained it at Ahsoka panel last year as well. I think it was on maybe the Lost Wars, I don't know. Anyway, they've explained that if they got to do another season, you would have had the stuff happen where on Mandalore, Maul is there, there's this whole uprising happening, Ahsoka's there, Anakin comes down, speaks to her, gives her a lightsaber, says, go kick Darth Maul's... Oh, he's not Darth. Go kick Maul's ass. I've just got this coal. I need to go save Palpatine. And then he flies off, and then that would be the perfect cut. Like, if that was the episode, if you could have that part, if someone could animate that part, it would be the perfect lead-in. You could watch this trilogy, skip to that episode. Here, I trust you. Go save the day, Ahsoka. You're my Padawan. I never wanted you, but I love you. He doesn't say that, but you know. And then he has to go save Palpatine, and then you cut straight to the Revenge of the Sith, and they're up there flying around. So it'd be the perfect cut. But since we don't have that, the last moment on screen that we have of Ahsoka and Anakin is the moment where he leaves her. Well, she leaves him and walks away from him. And as far as I'm concerned, if this hadn't happened, if Ahsoka had have been around, I feel like, and I know like it probably still would have happened, but I feel like there might have been a stronger chance of Anakin not falling to the dark side. There would have been a stronger chance of him not falling to the dark side if he had have had his Padawan around Ahsoka Tano to help him. Because I feel like between losing her and then losing... and then the idea of losing Padme later, that kind of just breaks him. Because even though he never wants Ahsoka, the best thing about the Clone Wars TV series is that it shows you that he grows a strong attachment to that Ahsoka. He feels a sense of teaching to her and all these sorts of things. And their relationship's one of my favourite things in Star Wars. So we're going to lead in that, and then, yeah, you're going to go watch straight after that Star Wars. So this is probably the most hours you need to dump into is week 4, because you're going to watch that one episode, which is 20 minutes or whatever, and then watch Revenge of the Sith, which is 2 hours, whatever that is. So that'll be your biggest week. But then after we're through Revenge of the Sith, we have our Vader ticked, we have the Death Star looming, we have Emperor Palpatine in, and then we're going to go to week 5. Now I was thinking about just watching like the spark of rebellion, the first 40-minute 2-episode thing of Star Wars Rebels the next week, just to kind of say, because it's like, oh, the start of a rebellion, here's the stuff, but it never really feels like enough of us the start of the actual rebellion. Like it's the start of that small group of the rebellion. I feel like the first time I ever remember watching Rebels and feeling like, this is the spark of rebellion. This is the spark of something bigger leading towards the rebellion that we know and love, is Season 1, Episodes 12 through 14, the last few episodes of Season 1. If you haven't seen it before, if you haven't watched Rebels, Kanan gets himself captured by the Empire, and the rest of the crew have to set out to save him. But in the episode, they also kind of send out this message of hope and all this sort of thing. It's this really great moment. And to me, it just feels like the actual start of them leading on a journey to the bigger rebellion. So we're going to put that in next because that's leading towards the bigger rebellion that we're heading towards in Rogue One. And then in week 6, the final week, this is the hardest thing. I'm like, do I just want to put in something that feels like really rebel-y? Do I want to put in, what do I want to go watch going into Rogue One? Do I just want to pick like some random episode with like Tarkin in it? Because he showed up in Rebels. Do I want to rewatch like the season 3 opener of Rebels and have, just so I can have Grand Admiral Thrawn do his whole line about how he's going to pull the rebels apart. I'm like, nah, because that's not really important. I'm like, so I kind of want more stuff to do with the rebellion growing bigger, Vader. What can I do with this? And I was like, well, it's got to be Rebels, Season 2, Episode 20, or 20 and 21, however they have it numbered, because it's all stupid. Anyway, the 2-parter, or the 1-parter, called Twilight of the Apprentice. It's the finale of Rebels Season 2. It's when they go to the planet. I'm not going to spoil it. If you haven't seen Rebels Season 2, if you haven't seen Twilight of the Apprentice, you need to catch up. Twilight of the Apprentice is top 3 Star Wars, and I'm not sure how to order them. It is one of my favoritist things in Star Wars ever. All the movies, all the books, all the comics. This hour, or a bit less than an hour, of television, of an animated Disney show, is some of my favourite Star Wars stuff ever. It's amazing, and it's the perfect thing for me to watch the week before leading up into Rogue One, because you do get some Vader in this. You do get to see how far Anakin's gone from becoming, how far he's lost himself. You do get to see that the rebellion will strive through lots to get the job done, and they'll do what needs to be done. And what's happened behind the scenes of the rebellion and some of its bigger members from the start, what they've gone through before we get to Rogue One. So I'm going to watch that. I'm not going to talk about it too much because you need to watch it. But that's my watch list. That is it. 6 weeks of stuff. So yeah, feel free to use that. Feel free to, make up your own. Free to use that as a template, obviously. If you was trying to think of something to do leading up to Rogue One, this could be an idea for you. If you were like, I've never thought about watching stuff leading up to Rogue One, that sounds like a good idea. This sounds great. Or maybe I've sold you on watching some more Clone Wars or some more Rebels or stuff like that. That'd be great. If you've got your own different list of stuff you plan on watching pre-going into Rogue One, you can drop it down in the comments below and tell me what your list of stuff is going to be, because I really struggled to pick this, and I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I was finally just like yesterday, it's like, it's nearly November, I just need to lock in stuff to watch. I can't stop overthinking this. And without putting too much on the damn list. Let's watch one movie and like fucking half a series of TV shows and read a book and listen to the audiobook in one day. What are you doing? What are you doing? Hope you enjoyed this video, guys, of the Star Wars Untitled show that may not have a name coming up soon. Don't forget to give the video a like and subscribe for more. I'll be back again in 2 weeks' time with another episode of this Star Wars show. Next Friday, you can check out the next Viva La Deal show, and also whatever other videos I drop here, you can head to Viva La Deal TV, my other YouTube channel, where I drop gaming videos and channel review and reaction and stuff like that. And then you can head over to vivaladil.com for everything in one place, including written reviews of movies, games, TV, all this other stuff. Love yous.